Bears top seed in the entire NFC. Packers on their heels in the NFC North and can take over with a W. Now Chicago has won 5 in a row. Green Bay has won 3 in a row. Does this game mean more for the Bears or the Packers?
This definitely means more for the Bears.
Wow.
Yeah, and I figured you guys would kind of be a little like, what? The Packers have dominated this series for the past 30 years. And when I know, the Bears, the Bears in recent history, like they finished 4th the last 3 years. You get a new head coach. He's now your 5th coach since Lovie Smith, the last coach to actually have some semblance of success against the Green Bay Packers. Ben Johnson you alluded to this yesterday. Soon as he gets the job, he alludes to how he's excited about, continuing to beat Matt LaFleur. Yeah. And he hasn't shied away from it. He understands the magnitude of this rivalry. He understands what it means, not only to the people within that organization, but to the city of Chicago. On the other side, I'm listening to some of the Green Bay guys getting asked about this rivalry, and they're like, man, it's great that they're winning. We're excited. Do you think the rivalry is being restored? They're like, yeah, man, because they're finally winning. And if you're Chicago, you're hearing this stuff like, man, I don't need to hear that. It's been a rivalry. It's going to remain a rivalry. But the Green Bay Packers, they understand what's at stake. Chicago has been dominated and thoroughly beaten up in this division and in this series for so long. It naturally has to mean more to them.
Believe it or not, I'm with Greg. Like, I think it always means more for the little brother to beat the big brother than vice versa.
And they're definitely the little brother.
Absolutely. Like, all you're saying, that's sunning the Bears. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, it's not. They're actually winning some games. We're happy for them, But that's the truth. If the Bears win this game, like if the Packers lose, they're still going to be in the hunt. It gets dicey because it's a tough division, but they'll be fine. But the Bears, this takes them to a whole nother level. Beating Philly raised my antennas. Yep. Yeah. If they beat Philly and Green Bay in back-to-back weeks, you are a legitimate Super Bowl
back-to-back road games too, right?
Yeah. Yes. So you're a legitimate, now the expectations go from just kind of making the playoffs, oh, we got a future, to let's win it this year.
So this might sound contradictory, I don't mean it to. I agree a win would be more meaningful for the Bears, but a loss would be more damaging for the Packers.
I agree.
So okay, so because we are, and I promise, I am not out here just trying to put every coach in the world on the hot seat. But I do want to remind everyone that a month ago, this same publication, this same writer, Matt Schneidman of The Athletic, told us about, hey, remember how LaFleur and Gutekunst didn't get contract extensions this offseason? And after back-to-back years where they didn't have, great regular seasons and last year lost early in the postseason, that after going all in for Micah, if this year ends with a whimper, there could be some job security questions. Well, to your guys' point, the Packers aren't the team in first place. The Packers are coming off a great win, and because of that, we looked at what they could be and like, wow, they can win the Super Bowl. But if they lose the home game to the Bears, then it's certainly on the board that in a couple weeks they lose the road game to the Bears, and there's going to be at least one, if not two, really good NFC playoff teams that are left without a seat. And I feel like the Bears they're not quite playing with house money yet for this season, but they're close to it. The Packers have to win a game like this. It's at home. It's to keep you alive for the division. So I think a win would mean more for Chicago, but the only team that's in panic adjacent with a loss is Green Bay.
All right, I find myself largely in alignment with the perspective Nick laid out. And I must admit a tinge of disappointment that he articulated it first, essentially capturing the sentiment I intended to express. So, I will channel my focus into amplifying and underscoring the central tenet of that viewpoint. A defeat for the Green Bay Packers in this context would be nothing short of catastrophic. That is the lens through which I am evaluating this impending clash. If we are to employ the familiar metaphorical framework of an elder sibling and a younger sibling, the dynamic here becomes profoundly clear. From the vantage point of the younger brother, securing a victory over his bigger, stronger sibling is a moment of unadulterated triumph. It's a cause for celebration, a chance to declare, Look, I did it. I finally beat him. There's an inherent joy and a sense of arrival in that achievement. However, the implications for the elder sibling in that same scenario are radically different and far more psychologically complex. For the established big brother, a loss to the younger rival triggers not celebration, but an existential crisis. It forces a series of uncomfortable, introspective questions. What just transpired? Am I declining? Have the years begun to erode my capabilities? Am I no longer the dominant physical presence I once was? Is my sibling not only catching up, but actively surpassing me? Such a defeat necessitates a painful confrontation with one's own reflection and the unsettling possibility of a shifting hierarchy. Now, I want to be precise. I am not attempting to inflate the significance of a singular regular season contest into an absolute, irreversible verdict. The landscape of professional football is inherently fluid. We need only examine divisions like the NFC East, arguably the prime illustration of this volatility, to see how power can rotate. The New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, and Dallas Cowboys have all enjoyed periods of supremacy within that division, without establishing a prolonged, unchallenged dynasty. The absence of a repeat champion in that division for an extended period underscores that a single result does not permanently anoint or dethrone a franchise. Therefore, a Packers loss to the Chicago Bears does not, in a literal sense, strip Green Bay of its historic stature or its deep-seated identity. The Packers occupy a unique stratum within the NFL pantheon. They are institutional royalty. For many fans, including myself, some of the earliest formative memories of the sport are intrinsically tied to the green and gold. I recall the genuine childhood curiosity upon learning that this iconic team was not based in a sprawling metropolitan hub like New York or Los Angeles, but in Green Bay, Wisconsin, a realization that only deepened the franchise's unique, almost mythic appeal. Their sustained excellence and operational model, maintained over decades amidst the league's constant churn, is a remarkable achievement. That legacy is not obliterated by one unfavorable result. Yet, when we narrow our focus to the contemporary competitive landscape and the specific trajectory of this franchise, the stakes are dramatically heightened. My contention entering this season, and it remains my view now, is that the Green Bay Packers, by virtue of their structure and position, are obligated to maintain an advantage. They are supposed to be the pacey setters, the established entity looking down at the rest of the division's rebuilding projects. Consider the context of the NFC North. The Detroit Lions enjoyed a period of ascendancy, but that was predicated on profound continuity in coaching, quarterback play, and roster construction. They have since undergone significant coordinator turnover, a transition I believed would precipitate a step back. The Minnesota Vikings are in the embryonic stages of a reboot, with a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy and head coach Kevin O'Connell essentially pressing a reset button. The Chicago Bears, while immensely promising, represent a novel experiment. A second-year quarterback in Caleb Williams paired with a first-time head coach in Ben Johnson, a partnership still in its inaugural season of discovering its synergy. In stark contrast, the Packers possess the most valuable currency in the modern NFL: stability. They boast continuity at the most critical position, with a quarterback, Jordan Love, who has accrued multiple seasons of experience within Matt LaFleur's offensive ecosystem. Their roster, as a collective whole, has endured fewer foundational alterations. Most importantly, they have accumulated the intangible asset of shared experience. Playoff appearances, a decisive road playoff victory against the Dallas Cowboys, and a hard-fought, narrow defeat against the eventual NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. They have navigated the pressure of January football together. This established foundation is what separates them. The Lions are integrating new coordinators. The Bears are determining if Ben Johnson can be a successful CEO and if Caleb Williams is the franchise cornerstone. The Vikings are asking a 22-year-old quarterback to immediately elevate an entire organization. The Packers have already answered these foundational questions. They have a quarterback and head coach who have won a playoff game together, who have weathered adversity, and who operate within a familiar, refined system. This reservoir of institutional knowledge and proven performance must translate into a tangible, on-field advantage. It simply has to. If it does not, then the paradigm has shifted. A Bears victory, particularly one that propels them to a divisional crown over the Packers, would signify precisely that, a leapfrog event. It would force an uncomfortable but necessary admission. The superior team this season is Chicago. The more effective coach-quarterback duo is not LaFleur and Love. It is Johnson and Williams. To be overtaken by a rival in the midst of such a dramatic, top-to-bottom reconstruction, while you stand as the paragon of continuity, is an immensely bitter pill to swallow. It represents a profound competitive failure for the established power. This dynamic is not unique to Green Bay. It's a league-wide tension for contenders who have yet to claim the ultimate prize. Examine the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens. For franchises in that tier, the threat of being surpassed by an ascending rival carries a unique sting. The Philadelphia Eagles, by virtue of their recent Super Bowl victory, operate with a slightly wider margin for error. Their fan base may be frustrated by a down year, but there isn't the same visceral sensation of being leapfrogged by Dak Prescott's Cowboys or a healthy Jaden Daniels in Washington because the Eagles have already sealed the deal. Had they not won that championship and then been surpassed, the narrative would be one of a window slamming shut as another opened nearby. This, to me, is the Packers' precise predicament. They are the established championship-caliber entity, in process, if not yet in title, watching as the division undergoes chaotic realignment. They are the mature, cohesive operation facing a brilliant but unproven new challenger in Chicago. When you are the well-run franchise with the entrenched coaching, the seasoned quarterback, the defensive playmakers, and the offensive weapons, that composite should be sufficient to assert dominance and secure victories in critical moments. It is the blueprint the Eagles themselves followed when they faced the exciting but nascent Washington Commanders, leveraging their experience and continuity to maintain supremacy. Therefore, the central question becomes, why is it not enough? If the Bears, in the inaugural season of their new regime, can surpass the Packers, the introspection cannot be dismissed with facile excuses. Injuries, such as the absence of a key player like Tucker Kraft, can form a part of the explanation, but they cannot constitute the entirety of it. That is an insufficient rationalization. I am consistently opposed to the reflexive dismissal of serious outcomes. This is why I frequently cite the Philadelphia Eagles' recent history as an instructive parallel. Following their Super Bowl loss, they did not simply chalk it up to an off year and assume a natural rebound. They engaged in aggressive, sometimes brutal self-assessment. They fired coaches, made bold personnel acquisitions like Saquon Barkley, and drafted key defensive pieces. They acted with the urgency of a franchise that understood its core. Hurts, Brown, Smith, Sirianni was championship caliber, but required aggressive augmentation to cross the final threshold. They refused to stand pat. This is the standard. I defended the Packers last season, attributing their struggles to a cascading injury crisis and the understandable growing pains of a young quarterback thrust into inconsistent availability. It was a valid defense. But valid explanations for past failure do not grant a license for passive acceptance in the present. The Packers, to their credit, were not passive. They made aggressive off-season moves, signaling an understanding that the status quo required enhancement. Now, with those pieces integrated and the continuity advantage firmly in hand, the moment of reckoning arrives. I am not declaring that Green Bay must win the Super Bowl this year to validate their path, but this specific game, at home, in a high-leverage moment against a divisional foe they are designed to outpace, is a non-negotiable benchmark. Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur should, in theory, be able to project a demeanor of seasoned assurance. Your time is coming, Caleb and Ben. You will be formidable for years to come. But we have the head start. We have the shared history. We have navigated these pressures before. I know my quarterback intimately. You are still learning yours. I have made and learned from the mistakes of a young head coach. You are making them now in real time. LaFleur's experience, forged even in the shadow of Aaron Rodgers, must manifest as a tangible edge. This is why a loss would be devastating. It would represent the failure of experience to hold off audacious talent. It would signal that the continuity advantage was illusory. It would be akin to the Philadelphia Eagles, just a few years removed from a Super Bowl, finishing behind a New York Giants team in the early stages of a total rebuild under a new coach and quarterback. Such an outcome would rightfully trigger a crisis because it indicates a deep-seated problem within the established contender. The emotional calculus of victory and defeat further underscores this asymmetry. For the Bears, a win would be a euphoric, program-defining moment. A celebration of arrival, likely complete with the now iconic image of Ben Johnson discarding his shirt. These are the joyous eruptions that mark a franchise's ascent. However, the emotional weight of a loss for the team with cemented expectations is infinitely heavier. The crushing defeat to the Washington Commanders last season was spiritually devastating for Green Bay. That profound disappointment was not magically counterbalanced by the earlier joy of beating the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs. The anguish of a season's promise collapsing, of being left to ponder critical fourth-down decisions and missed opportunities, carries a gravitational pull that celebratory moments often cannot offset. When a defeat carries concrete, long-term consequences for a team's identity and trajectory, questioning its core thesis, it inherently holds greater significance than a rival's celebratory win. This is why my unequivocal answer is the Packers. The potential negative ramifications for them are simply more severe. Of course, one could passionately argue the opposite case. I could deliver a fiery 20-minute diatribe on why this game means everything to the Chicago Bears, about slaying the giant, toppling the dynasty, and officially announcing a new era. The case is there to be made, but personally, I have come to realize my own psychology aligns more with the fear of failure than the pursuit of victory. I am motivated by a desire to avoid the abyss, not merely to reach the peak. The terror of sinking propels me forward more than the joy of swimming. In that framework, a loss always looms larger, its shadows longer and more defining. And so, for a Packers organization standing at the precipice of either affirming its established order or witnessing a hostile takeover, the specter of defeat carries a devastating weight that a Bears victory, however joyous, simply does not possess in equal measure. But those are my thoroughly examined thoughts. I am absolutely eager to hear your own perspectives and analyses. Where do you stand in this debate? Does this pivotal matchup hold greater consequence for the Green Bay Packers, or does the symbolic weight rest more heavily on the shoulders of the ascending Chicago Bears? Please share your reasoned judgments in the comments section below. I make a commitment to read each and every comment. Whether you find yourself in full agreement, partial alignment, or total disagreement with my conclusion, let's engage in a substantive, passionate, and respectful dialogue about the nuances of this historic rivalry. Ultimately, let's enjoy the shared experience of dissecting a game that captures the very essence of what makes NFL football so compelling. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are diligently cultivating a vibrant, thoughtful community here, and I would be profoundly thrilled to have you join us. The overarching aim is to foster a connected, intelligent space where we can all engage in meaningful sports discourse, and I believe we are making significant, tangible progress toward that objective. Furthermore, if you could take a moment to give this video a thumbs up, it genuinely and materially assists with visibility and organically supports the channel's growth through the platform's algorithmic mechanisms. Thank you so much for your valuable time, your attention, and your engaged participation. I look forward to connecting with you again next time.